Howdy guys, it's currently week 2. I'm currently learning to fly an FPV drone so we can get a dream shot in New Zealand, and we did a lot last week. We took our first flight, I learned a few of the basic maneuvers, and more importantly, I actually booked the flights to New Zealand. I probably should have done that earlier, to be honest. Okay, so we are now booking the tickets to Auckland, which is the New Zealand stop. It's booked. Alright, 27th of June, we're going to Auckland. However, we have a lot to get done this week. To make sure I actually get better week by week, I'm trying to set a goal each of the weeks leading up to the flight. Last week was learning all the beginner maneuvers, which was pretty simple, not really much risk there. This week is mountain surfing. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot scarier, I think. But before we do that, I'm going to do some practice flying while I go over the strat for the week on how we're going to get this mountain surfing shot. I don't know if you can see this, but there's like 20 dogs here. Dogs are notorious for chasing drones, so hopefully we don't get chased today. Now, this week, it's definitely not going to be nearly as technical as last week. So for mountain surfing, it's pretty simple. You kind of just want to like sway side to side, kind of close to the ground like this. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but I feel like if you're like going around like this and then you hit a stick or something, you'll just get knocked out of the sky and then you lose your drone. So we don't want to do that. The first thing we're going to do is play around in the simulator for mountain surfing. The second thing we have to do is scout out a location. So we've got a few sunny days at the end of this week coming up, and that's when I'm going to aim to get the flight done. Now, I've had a bit of experience with drones a few years ago, and I did try mountain surfing once. However, it didn't go that well. Essentially, I'm just going to try to just glide across the side of the mountain and then just sort of dive in and I guess just see what happens. Hopefully not lose my drone. Yeah, I basically crashed into the mountain, and by some miracle, after 30 minutes of looking for it, I actually managed to find the drone. But now we're here to do it again because mountain surfing is pretty much a third of the dream shot that I want to get in New Zealand. And so we kind of need to be good at that. Now, I think it's important to learn from your mistakes, so what went wrong last time? Well, you see, if you're standing with an object between you and the drone, the signal becomes weaker. And if this object is as dense as a rock, like in this case, you can lose signal completely. Now, there's two ways to increase the signal ability. Number one is you get better antennas on your goggles to help receive better signal, and number two is you make the drone output more power through its antennas so it can reach the goggles better. Now, I've kind of spent a lot of money on FPV in the last 2 weeks, so I decided that we're going to try to increase the power output of the drone. There's just one problem. In Australia, the default limit is 25 milliwatts. Drones typically range from around 25 milliwatts to 1,200 milliwatts at the extreme, so yeah, we're right at the bottom of the scale. Now, I did a bit of research on how to get around this, and it's actually pretty simple. Okay, how do you increase range on DJI Avatar? Okay, so it seems pretty simple from what I've gathered. You grab this file here, you put it on an SD card, and then you just put this SD card into the goggles, and then it changes it, which basically means it's just able to give a higher output, which is really simple. It seems the same, but apparently that's all you need to do, and then it's done. I double checked the information on the goggles, and I can confirm that it is now outputting 700 milliwatts. So that's definitely more than the 25 that we were at, but not at the extreme of 1,200 milliwatts. So now it should be quite a bit better at going long distance. With this sorted, I spent the next day practicing in the simulator. Alright, so this is the map I kind of discovered last week, and those mountains there, you can actually fly up to them, so it's not just like a backdrop for this map. So that's kind of my plan to practice this, is we just kind of go up there and see how well we can dive down from there. Alright, so we're at the top of the mountain now. And yeah, apparently we just kind of dive down. For the next few days, I practiced this map very little. Actually, I kind of feel like mountain surfing doesn't require too much practice. I feel like it's just about how much you're willing to risk the drone to get closer to the ground to get a better shot. And there's no real risk in the simulator, so I was kind of just going as close to the ground as possible. When actually, when you're flying, there's so many twigs and sticks sticking out of the ground that can knock your drone out of the sky, and in the simulator, it doesn't have that risk. So I feel like I took the simulator as far as it could go. I think we just need to send it. Now obviously there's nothing crazy around Sydney, because if there was, we wouldn't be going to New Zealand to do the final shot, but maybe we can get something close to actual mountain surfing. Maybe? Sydney's quite flat. There's not much around here that we can mountain surf on. The one place I was thinking is here. So out in this way, out in this direction, we've got the Blue Mountains. However, I think the problem here is these mountains are way too big. Plus, if for some reason we do mountain surf and then lose signal somewhere, like how we did a few years ago, there's absolutely no way of retrieving a drone if it falls off a cliff like here. So as much as I'd like to do that, I feel like we could probably go somewhere that is a bit more accessible. Good walks in Sydney, I guess. Alright, so I found this area. This is a little bit different to what I was thinking of doing, but this area looks pretty good. And I know it's not mountains. However, I do kind of think that either way it's going to be similar movements, you know, practicing the side to side. But in this case, if I crash into some twigs, at least we can kind of go retrieve it because it's a little bit flat. And so we can kind of like go across this area here. Alright, that's it. This is the location that we're going to try mountain surfing with all the practice that we've definitely been doing over the last few days. As I mentioned before, I feel like when we actually get out there, the risks are going to feel a lot more real. So am I going to be able to do this? I don't know. Will I get close enough to the ground? I don't know. But one thing I will say for certain is that we will in fact mountain surf, albeit a very flat mountain. Okay, so we've got the drone, 2 batteries, and the controller. Alright, we got a bit of a hike to get this shot today. It's nothing crazy, it's like 8 kilometers. So we've got 2 batteries, this means we've got about a total of maybe 15 minutes flight time. So we're gonna pick the shot that we want to do very carefully. A little bit of a problem, the location that I decided on yesterday, I'm just kind of realizing now that it's about 4 kilometers away from the airport, which means we probably can't fly there. We're currently scouting a new area to fly. Okay, it actually turns out it might be okay. So the red is you can't fly, the blue is kind of restricted, and the orange you can fly, but there's height limitations. And the place we're going is right on the edge, which means we should be okay. And an hour drive later, we arrived at the destination for this shoot. It's gonna be a real sketch. I'm actually quite concerned with the wind. It's not too strong, like it should be fine. It might get blown around a bit. We had an 8-kilometer walk in front of us, and only about 20 minutes into it did we find a location that I actually thought was pretty good. Oh man. That might work. That looks sketchy as that is quite a drop, and that would be amazing. Nah.
At least it's sheltered from the wind.
I contemplated very heavily whether to take this shot now, but I decided that since this trail is an out and back route, I decided that the best course of action is to rate each location on the way out, and then on the way back, actually decide which one to fly. That way I'm not wasting my flight time if there's a better shot ahead of us. Alright, so that location, I'm probably going to give it a difficulty rating of 5 out of 5 and a how cool is it rating of also 5 out of 5.
Risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward. Pretty cool location.
Yeah.
It's a little basic, so difficulty rating probably like a 2 out of 5, and how cool is the shot rating? Probably a 2 out of 5 as well. We continued the walk for another hour, just enjoying the view, but also looking to see if there's any other locations we can shoot. And to be honest, there wasn't even that much. If you don't remember, last week it was raining basically the entire week, so unfortunately our walk's actually cut short by this. I mean, there's a little track on the side. We could like... Oh god. Okay, so we're turning back, which means choice between two locations. The ravine, which was really hard, but a cool shot, or just the mountains around here, which might still be a cool shot, but the risk is a lot less. I decided to be on the safer side and shoot the mountains, so we headed up to the highest point we could to find a place to take off. I actually feel like these birds are going to attack it. They look so aggressive.
They're just chilling.
Altitude zone 60 meters. So I can go up to 60 meters. Alright, let's go for it, I guess. Bro, I can feel it, it's so windy. It's like on an angle. I was pretty nervous, especially with the wind pushing the drone to the side, but eventually I focused in on my goal and tried to get my shots. It's so windy. Oh.
Well, how do you feel? Drink.
Yeah, I'm like shaking. I didn't say it here, but I was pretty disappointed with the results of this shot. Now I know there's not many mountains in the area that I live, but this area wasn't really what I expected. And to be honest, the shots just didn't feel like anything too special. We started heading back, but I wanted to leave this location with something I was a bit more proud of. So, I think we should get this shot. Five out of 10, it's a cool shot though. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. You sit here. The shot itself is quite simple, I think, but I think the issue is the range and if it's gonna cut off. Oh, that's so much better.
Okay.
That's a mad shot.